Now, does anyone think they might know what this might mean? What is that mess up there? POS or what? MHD? What does any of that mean? Any ideas at all?
Positively mad.
Positively mad? No. Positively mad? There we go. No?
Possible something?
Oh, well, there you go. Possible something. You know what a POS though is, right? That's kind of one of the names I've given for my current vehicle. It's not a very nice name, but it still runs, okay, in spite of me calling it that on occasion. That's not what this stands for, though. Doesn't have anything to do with it.
Power of spirit.
Power of spirit. I love it. That's a good one. Yes, we will use that. We will use that, Beverly. That's great. That's not it exactly, but you're getting warm. So Stacy, I could say that. Stacy mentioned when she was up here doing announcements that Wednesday we are starting The Science of Getting Rich with Wallace D. Wattles, and I meant to bring a copy of that book up here. I don't really need it though. That is an amazing book. We have them for sale in our bookstore. You're actually getting 3 books in one. In that, because when I saw it and ordered it, I liked the picture on the front so well, and it was cheaper than just getting the one book. Now, why is that? Who knows, right? Okay, because it's an abundant universe. And I thought, well, why not? Give them more than they are paying for, and that's the whole, one of the premises. I don't want to say that that's the only premise of this book, but it's one of the pieces that Wallace Wattles stresses. And I have this quote from him that I love. He says, "Give every man more in use value than you take away in cash value." And what you do there is you literally create the flow so big and so broad that it cannot help but come back to you. So thinking about that the last couple of weeks, I actually was able to find that book as a free audiobook and download it onto my iPhone. So I take my earphones and my iPhone and I go to the garden and I put the earphone in the pocket and the iPhone in the pocket and the earphone in the ear, and I listen to this amazing woman with an accent that must be Czechoslovakian. Her name is Dana Vartingale, okay? And that's how she says, Wallace D. Wattles, okay? It's very cute. But so I can listen to this while I'm out there pulling the weeds and watching things grow, and it's a wonderful thing. And it just reminds me how abundant when I'm out there in the garden, everything is. Especially, it seems like sometimes the weeds, So, in thinking about this, my thoughts have been focused on the wonder of that all, that we came into this experience, and I believe if we go back and we look at the whole story from Genesis forward, that there's a message there, that abundance is our natural heritage. We are meant to live that, we are meant to have that, to such a huge degree that there never is anything called want, or need, or lack. Well, how did we get on this train then, where some months it's interesting that we don't quite have the money to make the rent payment, or we get a bill in the mail that we don't expect, and our hair is on fire for 2 days until we calm down and get back to a truth place, and know that somehow that will be taken care of, just like everything is, always, How did we get to these ideas that sometimes there's not enough? And how did we get them so encoded in ourselves, that we seem to live them sometimes? If you go out in public, away from a place of a belief system like this, you really catch that the world is deeply devoted to things like there's not enough. And there's illnesses out there that you can contract, who knows how, and then this horrible thing has befallen you, and your life is over. And that's the end. Where do we get that stuff? It kind of drives me crazy, because some of it really makes for a sad outcome. And I love, I was listening to Abraham. You guys know I spend an inordinate amount of time on Facebook. I really do. I have to start stopping that, okay? Or looking at that, because it's, it can get ridiculous. But I'm on Facebook last night, the night before, and somebody had posted something that I guess Esther and Jerry, well, it isn't Jerry anymore, but Esther did recently. And it is a gentleman who had some real different beliefs than what Abraham teaches. And so it was wonderful to watch her and Abraham, through Esther, talking about addressing those beliefs. And she said the biggest misconception that you as humans carry as a species is that when you die, it's over. That when you die, it's a bad outcome, okay? Or something to be feared, or run away from, or fretted over if you have a family member who's not well or moving into that place. Or I have an elderly cat. Most of you know his name is Wallace too. Wally, he's on the road where, you know, we've had the conversations and he knows that when he needs to go, he can go. His brother and I will be fine. And, you know, yet I watch him, he'll not eat for a few days, and then he's like, oh, wait a minute, I like being on this planet. Let me eat some more and get my strength back up and poop some more and be a happy cat, you know, and, purr some more, and then I go back to my bed for 2 days and stay there, you know. So he's kind of coming and going. People do that too. Mm. But Abraham said that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we have, you know, that at that point it's over, because it's not. It's just a different book. It's a different chapter, you know. And yet that's hard when we have someone who's leaving, or an experience that's difficult to deal with. It's hard to remember that and hard to grasp onto that, you know. We have a penchant in our consciousness as human beings that Ernest Holmes referred to as dualistic thinking. And that is kind of like this. There's stuff that's good, and then there's stuff that's bad, okay? There's stuff that's yes, there's stuff that's no, okay? There's stuff that's wealthy and there's stuff that's poor. There's things that we call health and there's things that we call not health or illness or disease or something like that, okay, or accident, you know, or broke or can't fix or whatever, okay? So we have those ideas. But think about it, guys. When we think about us as human beings, you know, we come in and we're babies. And after a while we realize that we're not, Janice probably knows this well, she's got 3 children at home, right? And so, you know, you get to see over a period of time with a child that at about 6 or 8 months they realize, wait a minute, I'm not my mother, and my mother just left the room. Blah! Okay? You know, they begin to realize that, or think that there is such a thing as separation. And if that mom goes away, like out of that child's range of vision, a lot of times that child will cry. Because to them, that's all there is. It's not there, you know. And they're beginning to assimilate that they're not that person over there, but they haven't really figured out who they are yet. So they kind of freak out, you know. It's called separation anxiety. One of my kids had it until she was like 17. It was an interesting, you know, thing, you know. We get these ideas that there are things along the lines of poverty, okay, and then being wealthy, you know. And how do we get that? Well, a lot of that is stuff that comes in with us. A couple of weeks ago, we did our pet blessing here in honor of the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. And you'll remember that St. Francis is one of the kind of Catholic, he's a patron saint of the animals and the environment. And, you know, back when he lived, it was a very common, holy, spiritual practice to take a vow of poverty. And that's what he did. He went out and he lived on the streets. And he just lived off nothing. He begged, you know. And so whatever he had was what he got that was given to him, you know. And if he didn't get it, if somebody didn't give it to him, then he didn't have it, okay. Then that was considered a very holy practice then, a very spiritual practice. But let's think about that, guys. Is there a way for you to be less spiritual? Of course not. You know, if we are God in action, and we're set forth down here to do the work of the divine, how can you be not doing that? You can't. And Ernest Holmes tells us that. He tells us in his writings there is no place where God is not. Yeah. It's interesting. We all have wants and we have desires, and yet we get it in our heads that those desires are bad for us. But if we take that word and we break that word down, that word means of the Father. Desire means of the Father. So that thing that you want, that you're looking at going, I don't really know if I should do that or not. I don't really know if that's what's best for me or not. That very idea is an idea that came from divine mind through you looking for a place to birth. Did you know that every one of you is a mother? Every one of you has birthed stuff, okay, that has birthed divine stuff. And we could, if we sat and we talked for a while, and you told me about your life, well, when I was 5, I lived with my parents, and I did this, and when I was 10, I was doing this, and when I was 20, I was doing this, and so on. What you would find out is that you're tremendous creators in your own right. You, on some level, said yes to things, maybe it wasn't even conscious, and those things have flown into form, okay? I have children that came through me that way. I left a job a couple of years ago where, in the 10 years that I was there, we saw an amazing amount of program generation, and money came in, and, all kinds of we started programs for women and children and parents and elderly and all kinds of people. Not only in one county, in 7 western counties. I didn't know I said yes to all of that, but, apparently I walked in there and, the folks that were there working with me, we all kind of on some level said yes. So we're all always saying yes to stuff. And a whole lot of what we're really about in this lifetime is getting conscious on what we're saying yes to. Because we're birthing every minute. We're bringing into form every minute, Well, where do we get these ideas that those things, though, sometimes that come up in our mind are not holy or not right for us? It's kind of interesting. And that's kind of interesting when you take this statement from the Talmud. And the Talmud is some of the ancient Jewish literature. Now, we're talking before there was a Bible, okay, the be-all, end-all in the mainstream world out there, okay? Before any of that existed, the Talmud was there. And the Talmud says, where'd it go to? A person will be called on Judgment Day to account for every permissible thing he or she might have enjoyed, but did not. Okay? Now, when I read that, I got that off Facebook. Can you believe it? Okay, that's hysterical. And that's actually a quote from the Talmud. I checked it out. It is real, okay? I wouldn't say that if, being on Facebook. I wasn't sure, okay? But, think about that. How many things have you desired? How much good have you said no to yourself? For, I grew up Catholic, and it's not a statement about that faith. And when I got to thinking about that, what came up was, oh my gosh, I am in so much trouble, okay? I have said no to so many things because my early training taught me to deny myself, okay? On a little level and on a big capital S level. And how do you ever know, guys? If you get a thought, if you have a desire, is there any real way to go, well, this is just, me wanting to feed my childish ego stuff, or me, with a capital M, wanting to feed the planet? Who knows? It's really hard to tell, isn't it? Yeah. Ernest Holmes tells us in the Science of Mind text, he says, we should neither separate spirit, capital S, from matter, physical form from that which gives form. Okay? So the stuff that's formed, okay, it's all God. Okay? It's all God, every bit of it. There's nothing that you can look at, that you can focus on, that you can see, does not have that basic element of the divine. If we were to consider it kind of a chemical makeup, y'all remember the table of elements from chemistry class in high school? Well, on there is one called G-O-D. It's not P-O-S or M-H-D. Okay, we're not there yet. We'll get there. Okay. But there's one of those that's called God, and that's in everything. That composition, before anything else came to be around it and made it into form, there was God's stuff present. Okay? So Ernest tells us we should neither separate spirit from matter, physical form from that which gives form, nor life, capital L, from living. To suppose that one must retire from the world to be spiritual is one of the greatest possible mistakes. This is directly opposed to the self-evident truth that spirit, or God, or whatever you want to call it, enjoys itself only through its own works. How else do you think God gets to live except through you? It ain't got no other way. Okay? It ain't got no other vehicle. We are the wheels that, that literally drive the truck, that literally put the God out there in this world. I loved what Stacy shared about random acts of kindness. Facebook again, sorry. I got some tires a couple of months ago from Discount Tire over in Arden. And I have been really fascinated with them as a business ever since then, because it was one of the most nice, just polite business experiences I ever had. They waited on me hand and foot. Those guys were, yes, Mrs. Jefferys, no, Mrs. Jefferys. I started saying, call me Red, but I got away from that. Okay, decided I didn't really need to go there with them. But it was a really, and I have had to go back. I had a problem, okay? I had a problem with a tire, and they were like, how can we make this right? What can we do? And I like businesses that overfill their plate and hand that to their customers. I really do. That's how I expect to be treated. That's how I live my life in an attempt to be with others. Okay? How can I be there for you? Now, not to a point where I'm, where I've slaughtered myself, but, there's some health that has to take place there. But so what I saw on Facebook yesterday was a guy by the name of Derek, I think it was Derek Scott, from a Discount Tire down in South Carolina, and he posted that he was working with a lady in his store, okay, and I think she had a couple of little kids, and she came in and she needed tires, and she needed 4 tires, and that was just the bottom line. And she had the money for 2. There was no way for her to get the other 2. And some guy in the waiting room overheard this conversation, and after she walked away to go sit down, the man went up and he said, put 4 tires on her car, here's my card, run my card, make sure it goes through. And he left. He wrote her a note, he didn't leave his name, and he walked away. He walked out of that store and left that gal for, full payment for 4 tires. Okay? I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What if for 5 minutes of every day we try to live from that place? What would happen to your checkbook balance, okay? What would happen to the world relationships, to the international relations that we have going on? Wouldn't that be amazing? We might have to create a holiday for this, guys. Maybe we'll have a contest and start something new, Here's another amazing thing that Ernest says, and again, this goes back to the reality that we are the action. We are the verb here, okay? People must realize that no matter how infinite the infinite may be, it can only become to them what it can become through them. We must look at ourselves with our own eyes. If we could open up, clean house mentally, and get out of ourselves everything that ails us, I don't care what the poverty is or the misery is, everything would be allowed, because the infinite cannot refuse anything. And we know that for you, those of you who have had basic science of mind teaching, you understand that we talk a lot about in that teaching about law, and that the universe always has one answer, and it ain't no, okay? It's always saying yes. So if I put a thought out there, this morning we were talking about cats before the service. What else? You're in my center, okay? And I'm like, obsessed and incensed with him. We have this kitty who showed up at the house, and he's really cute. He's not the only kitty who showed up at the house. I actually think there's about 15 kitties out there in the woods behind my house, because every day there's a different kitty. But this one had a tag on. And so I looked at the tag, and I called his mom. His name is Oreo, and I said, your dude is here. Could you come get him? So she came, and she got him. She took him home. Well, I'm always feeding stuff. I'm feeding the possums. I don't care. Give me a bag of cat food, I'll feed the squirrels. I think it's just fabulous to watch them all come and eat. And my cats are in the house going nuts. It's a whole entertainment, thing in my world. It doesn't take much, guys, okay? So at any rate, Oreo has become kind of a real trooper in that he does not want to go home and stay there. So he comes back. He's kind of like a boomerang. He comes back. I'll call his mommy. Excuse me, her name is Deb. I'll call Deb and say, Oreo's here again. You come get him, okay? She'll come get him, and 4 hours later, he's back. The next morning, this morning he was out there at 5:30. I'm like, dude, do you sleep? Okay? He's like, I'm out prowling, okay? I'm catting around. But, he's really kind of a pest. And so I was trying to load the car, and I was bringing out the laptop and bringing out some other stuff, and Oreo is like on me. Okay, he's like right under my feet, and he's putting his head right there. Where he's, they have that special place right here between the leg and the foot, and if they put the head there, they know they can cause you to trip, okay? And he is practiced at this, okay? And so I was having some of those thoughts that were like, you so-and-so kitty, and I was like, I can't believe you called a kitty a name like that, okay? I can't believe you called a kitty a bad name. When I was having those thoughts, and I was thinking, you need to wait a minute now. Do you really want him to think he's a bad kitty? You know, or like well, it was S.O. something, okay, was I think was similar to what I was calling him this morning, okay? And I was thinking, you know, Oreo, you're not a bad kitty. You just need to sit down. You need to learn how to walk with a human being. And there's an art to it. You teach the cat gently, get off your feet, okay? But those thoughts, when we have those thoughts, what are you going to do with them? Well, you've got to do something with them, don't you? Okay? You know, have you ever looked at your keyboard on your computer? Most of you, all of you think have computers, a lot of you, okay? You get emails and respond. Up there at the top, there's this thing called F keys, okay? And if you are on the internet and you press the F5 key, do you know what it does? It refreshes the whole screen, okay? So if you're working on a website and you make some changes and then you want to see the change, you can hit your F5 key and you'll see the new picture, you hope, if you did everything right, okay, and saved it, you know. So you just literally, when you have those thoughts, you have to refresh them, okay? You have to get clear on what it is you're creating. Now, we haven't talked much about this, okay? Do you have an idea yet? Anybody have any idea about what POS or MHD might mean?
I thought of something you were saying for the POS, but I don't want to say it out loud.
Yeah, okay. Right. Well, it isn't that, okay? It isn't that. I have some really wild
Yeah, I don't know what you're
talks
talking about
that
there.
we do. Okay. For me,
Oh,
you
I
know,
know what
the
POS
POS always, you know, I mean, that's a pretty standard. Most people have heard that, and that's not what I'm referring to here. I have a background in the mental health kingdom, okay, world, whatever it is. And, you know, MHD was mental health department or mental health division or mental health day if you were laying out of work taking care of yourself that day, okay? I'm taking an MHD today, I will not be in the office, okay? That's when you go out and you just chill, you know, or chillax or whatever the new phrase is, okay? So think about MHD. It's not mental health, doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It's my heart's desire,
Wow.
okay? It's your heart's desire. And again, to go back to the premise here that every desire you've ever had was something that came through you of the divine. So is it your heart's desire, or what do you think POS is? What do you think that could be?
Pile of something.
Pile up. No, okay, but you're close, okay? We're getting there. In the Abraham teachings, there is a piece, and this is one of the things that I love about Abraham. I really, really believe that if Ernest Holmes was alive today, he would be sitting on the front row every time Esther Hicks goes out there and downloads Abraham, okay? Because it's so us. It really is so science and mind, you know? I just love it. Esther tells us, Abraham tells us, ask and it is given means that whether you are a full-blossoming genius human or whether you are the one-celled amoeba in the ocean or a cell, just one cell in your body, when it is concluded that something else is preferred, no matter how developed that consciousness is, and think about the consciousness of an amoeba, it's probably not very developed. We're talking about even back there further way back than when people believed it was holy to give everything away and have nothing, okay, and live a life of poverty and eat dirt, right? Okay? No matter how developed the consciousness is or is not, every time you have a preference for something, non-physical energy, and those two words are capitalized, non-physical energy rushes forth, it goes forth to begin to call that forward, to call you forward, to say, come on, catch up with me, you had this desire, so your desire is for a bigger house, or a better world, or more money in your pocket. You know, people like to think money is not a spiritual thing. If you have money, guys, what do you do with it? You spend it. And when you spend money, you give somebody a job, okay? This is the economy 101. You know, when you have more to spend, you give more, and when you give more, you are doing more for the entire world. Mike came home the other day with this, he goes to work in crazy places, okay? He goes to work in banks, and he goes to work in convenience stores where he's fixing things all the time, coin sorters and ATMs and things like that. And he comes in with this it's a little pumpkin head, okay? But it's got a body, too. Of course, the pumpkin head is bigger than the body. It's a little plastic thing, okay? And it's got a little light photo sensor type thing on it. And you set it in the sun, okay? And what happens is once it gets charged up, it goes... and it goes clank, clank. I think he bought it to drive me crazy, but the one it really bothers is the cat, okay? So I'm loving it, okay? And it shakes its little butt around. It's really cute, okay? But, that little thing, I was looking at it the other day, and I was thinking, that's really cute, okay? And I look at that, and I get these rushes of happy through my being. It doesn't take much, like I said, okay? And so I'm looking at that thing, and I'm thinking, that's really cool. I want to bless that all the way back to the origins. But without picking it up, I was like, I know that was made in China. And it might have been made by somebody who was 9 years old, okay? Which I have issues with, okay? But you know what? That doesn't change the nature of my givingness, And it's so funny, because sometimes I look at things like that and think, what a trivial little thing. It was kind of stupid to spend the money on that, But the truth of the matter is that even if that person back in China got a nickel out of it, they were bettered by it, And what's even more is that when I picked it up and I looked and I did confirm it was made in China, I sent my love back there to that person, okay, and brought the whole path forward to create that thing and put it in my hand, okay, because it changed the nature of my day. It gave me, if I had a way to go back and tithe to every piece of that, I would do that, and enrich that with my blessing, okay, because that's what tithing is about, okay. So we have MHD, and we know that that's my heart's desire.
Preference of the soul.
Preference of the soul. She's getting pretty darn good, I'll tell you. She's close. So Abraham tells us that when we have a desire, literally those rockets of desire are going forth. And if you read Ernest Holmes, you find out he says the same thing. He just doesn't call them rockets, okay? He says that a part of our consciousness goes forth and holds the place for that, Think about a couple hundred years ago in this country, when most of the western end of the continent, or United States, was not inhabited very much, okay, at least not by the white man, okay, and someone would go forth, a team would go forth, with a wagon and take, provisions and set up camp and then wait for some more settlers to follow them, and then they'd go forth again, and they'd keep doing that. We're doing the same thing every time we have a thought. We're sending it out there, okay? And that thought is saying, okay, catch up with me. Come on. This is where you want to be. This is what you want to be seeing. Michael Beckwith tells us that when we have those desires, that isn't a dream. It isn't a hope against, hope kind of thing. That is who we are, going forth saying, look here, this is who you are. Come on with us. Let's play, okay? Yeah, it's amazing stuff. So if we have those thoughts and they go forward, that is a POS. And you're very close, okay? It is a piece of substance. If you think about that, every time you send a thought out, it's literally like you took a part of yourself and threw a dart forward, okay? That was filled with your own vibration and your own dynamic desire, okay? And so you throw that forward, and then you go to catch up with it. It's amazing. It's powerful. And if you need to, you can always hit the F5 key, If you send something out there and you realize, wait a minute, that's not going to work for me, or you have one of those thoughts, okay, like I had with Mr. Oreo this morning, and you think, I really don't want to have that about you. I know you're he's darling, okay? In that moment, I wasn't finding him darling, you know, and then there's this issue with me, it's not him. But that thing goes forward, and it is a piece of substance. So when you look at things in your life, are they pieces of substance you want to send out? Okay? Or are they literally your heart's desire showing up? Yeah. So we'll close with a story today, and I know this is one many of you have heard. It's really sweet. Once upon a time in the far frozen north, a young First Nation lad was having a series of vivid and moving nightmares. Night after night, the scenario in each was always the same. A huge white wolf was engaged in mortal combat with an equally large black wolf. There was much slashing of teeth, torn flesh, and blood everywhere. Of course, it's Halloween. Disturbed by his dreams, the boy sought advice from his grandfather, who was widely recognized as a village elder and man of wisdom. Entering the old man's shelter, the boy joined his grandfather, already seated next to the small, warming fire. The young man trembled as he recounted the imagery of his dreams. It was as if he were reenacting terrible events that had actually occurred in his life. After the boy had described his experience to his grandfather, the wise old man thought for a moment and then asked, "What do these wolves mean to you, my son?" The young man answered, "When I look at the white wolf, I see all that is good in life. Love, peace, health, happiness, and the joy I experience with my family." The boy started to sob. "The black wolf terrifies me. He is everything of which I am afraid. He is evil, hatred, fear, envy, and sorrow. The black wolf is a demon who would destroy me and everything that I hold sacred." And the grandfather continued, "I see. So these wolves, they represent love and fear in your own young life. Tell me more. Why are these dreams so distressing to you?" The boy thought for a long moment and replied, "When they fight, I don't know which wolf will survive." The old man's eyes shone knowingly as he nodded in accord. He draped his arm around his young grandson. Drawing the boy close, he gently whispered, "That, my son, is up to you. It depends on which one you feed. So feed your heart's desire. Feed that thing that makes your toes curl and just won't let you sleep at night. Feed that amazing stuff." Namaste.